Hi everyone, we are live again this month with one of our bloggers and ambassadors. This is Michaela Hearst. She's been writing for us for a couple of years now and was one of our very first Project Social ambassadors when we started our program. I think it was last year, right? Almost a year. Yeah, a little over a year ago. Yeah. So she's here with us today. She's an adult with NVLD, and you guys have really been wanting to hear from an adult and talking about some adult topics. And so today we brought her in. We're super excited to have her here with us. She spoke at our fundraiser last year as well. She did a couple videos, I think, that you have on YouTube for NVLD for some of her classes and stuff. So she's really involved, really works to promote awareness and likes to teach other people about NVLD. So she's here with us today. We're going to start off. I just want you to tell us a little bit about your background, tell us kind of how you got diagnosed with NVLD, how you found out you had it, and just a little bit about your story with the diagnosis.
Okay, so I guess we'll start at the very beginning because it's a good place to start. My whole life, I knew that there was sort of something different about me, and my parents knew that as well, but we couldn't directly pinpoint what was going on. I was reading at the age of 2.5. I was extremely verbal. I was talking very early in life. My parents disagree over what my first word was. My mom says it was tree, which makes sense given some of the blogs that I've written. My dad says it was dinosaur, so we still don't agree on that. I was reading, talking very early, but I had issues with my motor skills. It was difficult for me to learn how to hold a pencil or do certain things with my hands. I was extremely sensitive and still am, and I socially sort of struggled to find my way over the years. And then the academic difficulties came out when I was struggling in math in school, but I had a lot of help from my mom, who would help me with my homework every single night. But over the years, and I got older, the work got harder. There was only so much that my mom could do to help, and it turned from not doing well on tests every so often to failing every single test in every subject in middle school. But passing classes because obviously I worked really hard and my teachers knew me on a personal level. But when I got to high school, in the very beginning of 9th grade, and I was taking geometry and physics, and those are very visual spatial subjects, and they were both super new to me in that way. I was failing both of them, and that was a first because, like I said, I had never failed a class before. I'd failed tests in the past, and I had had my moments where I really struggled, but I never actually failed. So that was a huge slap in the face to me, not to mention my parents getting emails saying, hey, Michaela's not passing a class, and it wasn't just one class, it was 2. So nobody knew what was going on with me. It was the beginning of 9th grade, so obviously there were normal transitional issues in addition to my having an undiagnosed learning disability. So my parents had me evaluated by someone wonderful, a very top-notch evaluation because they wanted the best. And I was diagnosed with NVLD as well as LD-NOS, which stands for Learning Disability Not Otherwise Specified. Because I don't have every single characteristic of NVLD. Everybody with NVLD that you meet, or any LD for that matter, is super different. But I didn't fit into all of the boxes, so to speak, of the diagnosis. But that was when I was diagnosed. And in addition to geometry and physics, I was also struggling in every single subject, even the ones that I used to be good at, like English and the things that were really my own when I was younger. So that, frankly, really sucked. And I also struggled socially, aside from what it's like to struggle in high school.
So aside from like the normal transition of going from middle school to high school, you found it even more difficult than some of your classmates to really make that social transition.
And I didn't get the support that I needed from school. Looking back, I wouldn't have taken that path in the first place had we known about my LD.
Were you in a public school at the time?
I was in a private school.
Okay.
But in hindsight, I don't know, had I switched schools, if I would have even gotten the support that I needed.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I look back. It's not good to look back, but when I do look back, I think where would I have gone? Would I have gotten the help that I needed, how would it have been different.
Yeah, was there even help available when you were looking for it? Because, you know, it was a couple years ago. It's not still not super well known, but, you know, even lesser known back then. So, and then after that, so you graduated high school.
I did graduate high school.
Good, yay. And then what?
Start from the beginning, sort of again. When I was a junior in high school, I was really struggling. I was having a hard time of it in every single way you can think of possible. And the college admissions process was coming up, and I heard my classmates talking about getting into all these really fantastic colleges. And I knew that I was struggling so much and didn't have the grades, and I didn't think that I was smart enough to be on their level. My mom was looking at schools that would possibly help me, even though we didn't really know what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
But she found Landmark College, which is in Putney, Vermont, and it's exclusively for students with LDs. So it's over Passover break, junior year. We got in the car and we drove up to Vermont, and we toured the campus and met with the director of admissions at the time, and she said, we have a 3-week high school summer program and you should totally try it. And I was super hesitant. That summer I was supposed to go to Israel, but it didn't work out, and I'd been going to sleepaway camp for years before that, so it felt weird to not go to camp. And I was like, what is this? I don't want to go to school for 3 weeks. Like, this is not going to be fun. Like, okay, you can punish me. Like, but I ended up going. It was more of a, like, try it out. And it was some of the best 3 weeks of my life. The school knew that a lot of people were in the same position as I was. Like, why do I have to be here? Like, I don't want to go to school. But for the first time in my life, I met people who understood me in ways that I had never been understood before. That's awesome. In ways I didn't think that I could be understood. So many things just came out of the woodworks, and I finally felt like I fit in a way that I never fit in before. So we knew Landmark was the answer. I didn't need tutoring. I didn't need, someone to sit with me and do my homework. I needed to actually learn skills from the ground up. So I finished my senior year of high school. I was literally counting the days till I could get out and go to Landmark. It was emotional in the end, but ultimately I was counting the days. And I went to Landmark fall of 2012. I was there for 2 years, and I learned everything I needed to know. Those 3 weeks were wonderful, but I couldn't get everything out of those 3 weeks. Like, I needed so much more. So I was there for 2 years. I graduated with my associates in spring 2014, and I graduated with high honors.
Good. Awesome.
Got the Dean's Award at graduation, and I did a lot when I was there, and I found myself in ways I never thought I could be found. The place saved me.
So really, that 3-week program that you took in high school really helped you kind of decide that college was a good route for you, that you weren't going to go somewhere and feel left out. You found kind of like almost your home, like you're
definitely my home,
somewhere you love. And I think that's probably about the time you fell in love with Vermont, right?
Yeah.
Because you're from the city and you love nature.
Yes. If you've read my blogs, you know that.
Yeah.
Okay. That was around the time I was never a city person.
Yeah.
The country's always been in my heart and soul. But I fell in love with Vermont right around that time.
Awesome. So Michaela's written a lot of blog posts for us. So if you go to the website and just search her name, you can see she's written about a couple of the things we've hit on already, like as far as topics, and you can just read a little bit about her background and that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely check those out. She's a great writer. She's got a lot on there. We do have a couple comments really quick. I want to say congratulations to Deanna. Her son is a senior this year, and she's very excited and proud of him. And she had to fight the school also with attorneys. That's a very common thing that we hear. But congratulations, that's great. And then Robin, her son is in grade 6. The board doesn't recognize NVLD, which is true, but the principal and the special ed teachers have been really great. That's awesome. It is hard to find those schools that really truly want to understand and that even can understand a learning disability that's not in the DSM because they're not taught about it. and they don't really have as much patience for it sometimes. So
I was reading through the DSM-5 yesterday, and
oh gosh,
there's something in there, and number one, I was like, it's too early for this. It's not even noon, and I don't want to be angry, but it's not in there, and I want to say that that's not okay.
Yeah.
And I don't say it just based on the DSM. I say it based on other experiences that I've had with people not just not knowing. I didn't know what it was until I was diagnosed with it. My parents didn't know what it was, but the understanding that's just not there.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, because I feel like that's a good segue into what did you study in college and what are your plans now that you've graduated?
So from Landmark, I got my associates in liberal arts, and I graduated from Manhattanville College in Purchase, New York with my bachelor's in psych.
Okay.
And from there, I took a gap year and I did a master's certificate program in dyslexia studies through Southern New Hampshire University, and got that right before I started out at Hunter College School of Social Work. And I just graduated with my master's, and I'm a social worker.
That's awesome.
Which feels weird to say, but it's true.
Congratulations. That's really cool.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And now you're doing your field work, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
I'm doing my field work at a mental health place up in Riverdale, and it's a place that's personally very close to my heart, and I've been involved with them in multiple capacities, and now I'm not only making my hours, but giving back.
That's awesome.
In ways that are really pretty nice to do.
Yeah. And so moving forward in social work and the field, what are you hoping to accomplish? What are your goals? What do you really want to do with your master's?
Right now I'm doing it at the Mental Health Association because it's the place that really fit me.
Good.
In terms of my learning needs and supervision needs, and also just where I feel comfortable right now. But ultimately, and I tell everyone this, I entered social work because I wanted to work with students with learning disabilities.
Awesome.
And for the past 2 years, I've developed a better sense of how I can do that. At first, it was, I want to work in the public schools. I want to do clinical practicum. But in a lot of ways, and some of this has to do with negative experiences, I realized how much needs to be changed from the ground up, and from the level of stigma and misunderstanding that people with learning disabilities do face. Changes need to happen. I'm all about signing the RISE Act and actually funding the IDA.
Gotcha.
Things of that nature. And it really shifted my focus from a clinical perspective to more of a policy perspective, which doesn't mean I don't want to do clinical work. I still want to work with all these students, but I realize in a lot of ways how much change needs to happen, and that the things that I was going through,
so
my
a little more
hardships,
almost advocacy work.
Yeah.
Okay.
More advocacy work, like the stuff I do now, and I realized that my hardships weren't. It wasn't just me.
It wasn't unique to you. A lot of people go through the same thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So that's a little bit about Michaela's background and her diagnosis, and kind of where she's at today. We're very proud of her. She's really, in the last year, even just since I met her, has come a long way, and I've always loved working with her. She's been great, very positive. So we
stay hydrated, please.
Yeah, it's really hot here today. So we have two topics that we're going to touch on today that some of our adults reach out to us about and ask a lot. So we're going to touch on two specific topics, and then we're going to open up the comments to questions. If you guys have anything that you want to ask Michaela, whether you're a parent, whether you're an adult, whether you're currently trying to make that transition from high school to college or whatever the next step is for you, we definitely want to open up the comments to you guys and let you just kind of almost have a little conversation with Michaela today and really, dig into her brain and get some advice from one of our ambassadors and just see what she has to say, because she is awesome. And so we want to bring that. But first, so let's start with the easier topic. Driving. We get a lot of questions about driving.
Arguably an easier topic.
And we talked a little bit about it last month with Sheldon Horowitz. Oh my gosh, too much Big Bang. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about driving because, as I understand, you drive.
I do.
Good.
I have a license.
So you have a license. Tell us how you learned to drive.
So I took not driver's ed, but I had a driving instructor, and he was awesome.
Did he understand NVLD? Or?
I didn't tell him. He had so many years of experience teaching all kinds of people.
There you go.
To the point where I was like, am I doing okay? Like, am I significantly worse than others? He's like, no, I've been doing this a long time.
Good.
Casually, I'll mention things like I have issues with visual spatial things, but it wasn't anything like, this is, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, there was no I can't or you can't. So I got my license when I was 22, which is 2 years ago.
Was it difficult? Did you find it hard to see how close people were to you or to parallel park, or is driving not something that was difficult?
It was difficult at first, but I learned ways to do that.
Good.
And I don't drive on a daily basis. I don't have a car, and I really just take public transportation.
Here in the city, it's the easiest way.
Yeah, but I do have my license. I've had my license for over 2 years now.
Good.
I didn't learn to drive in high school because I had other issues going on, and I just wasn't ready. But I do drive, and I think that it just takes practice, and not everyone has to drive, and not everyone can drive, so to speak. I'm not telling you what you can and can't do, but not everyone can, and that's okay. But it's one of those things that just takes practice, and there are things that sort of everyone goes through with driving, like driving with your parents.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it, but sometimes it has to happen. Yeah, sometimes it has to happen.
Good. All right, next topic.
Okay.
So you guys ask a lot about, we'll say friendships and relationships, and as well as dating. We hear from a lot of adults that even parents that are worried about their children, about they're not dating or they don't have a lot of friends. And Michaela is very social. She loves to talk. We talk all the time. And so I want to let her talk a little bit about relationships and how she has managed to handle those, and what has made it easier for her to build those relationships with her friends and the people in her life as far as dating and friendships. So.
Well, you guys can tell, but I like talking, and I'm very social, and the social component with NVLD is one that I really worked around when I met the right people and I was in the right setting. But I would say with any sort of relationship you have with another human being, it's important to be as aware as you can about who they are as a person, as well as who you are. And I always talk about communication. Like, if someone does something or says something that bothers you, it's okay to bring it up and say, hey, like, that kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
So just know what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, because everyone has those things.
So it sounds like being really open.
Yeah.
Then being honest.
Being open, being honest.
Say, I understand this, I don't understand this, I like this, I don't. Just really trying to help people understand how you're thinking and how you're feeling, as well as doing the same for them, right?
Right.
Good.
Everything is reciprocal. And then also just being kind. like don't be mean. So that's a part of it. Be nice. Be nice, be open and respectful. And this is a huge one, which is everyone works on this, and I work on this a lot, and I've definitely come a long way, but don't beat yourself up, because everyone has their moments where they say or do something that isn't the greatest. But either don't beat yourself up or work on not doing that in some capacity.
Yeah. Because
it can be draining to you, and just that's important, really important.
So I have a question, and this just kind of comes to mind, and I think a lot of people struggle with this, but as far as understanding the nonverbal communication and stuff, how have you dealt with, in friendships and dating, the nonverbal piece of the communication, the whether it's just like touching, because like I touch people on the arm, or like the eye contact, you make great eye contact. Is that all stuff that you kind of had to learn, or just stuff that you've like picked up on that other people do? And talk a little bit about that.
With me, it comes, again, that's not really my source of a struggle, and I just know naturally. But to me, it's okay to ask, like, were you upset, or were you mad? Because for everybody, sometimes like over texting can seem a certain way.
Yeah.
And it might seem like someone's mad at you, but they're not. They're just quickly sending a message. Yeah. So it's okay to be like, you know, what was that like? Was that like an angry tone? Was that like, are you okay? It's okay to do that to a degree. And I think if the person that you're with, you know, however the relationship is to you, if they know that you might have issues with cues, and they, you know, keep that in mind as respectfully as they can, and that means that they're worth keeping around.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. So there's a little bit of dating and friendship advice, as well as some background on driving. So, and I know Michaela mentioned this at the beginning, but she talked about how NVLD is kind of like its own spectrum. Everyone struggles with different pieces. Everyone is their own unique person. And I think that just talking about these two subjects with her, you can really see where the differences may lie with what you're struggling with, or what your son or daughter may be struggling with, versus where Michaela struggled, which I believe was just a little bit more academically, right? Yeah.
And if and when I did struggle socially, again, it's because I wasn't in the right setting, and also growing pains really suck. So it was really a combination of things, and I realized looking back that it wasn't because there was something wrong with me, so to speak. There are mitigating factors that just occur, and you deal with those, you acknowledge them, and you move past them.
Good. All right, so we are going to open it up. I'm going to check in and see what comments we've got. Oh, so Robin, who talked about her 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Her 6th grader, she works in the school, so that's awesome. Oh, you guys are in Canada. We have 2 ambassadors up in Canada as well. I think we have 2 of them. There may be 3. Deanna's son was told he may not drive, but he now has his permit. Cool. Congratulations. Sheldon! Hi!
Oh, she's a friend of mine.
Michaela is a wonderful spokesperson. There you go. Lend her voice an incredible value. Yes, everyone loves Michaela. We're very proud of her. Very proud.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, friends. As I've aged, I find driving harder, especially at night. I was proactive and stopped driving.
Also, keep in mind that a lot of people don't like to drive at night, so it's not just you.
Yeah. Sherry is also involved with our organization. She's been great to work with. She lives near here too. Mary, very informative. So Deanna said her son didn't understand facial expressions. He'd get in trouble. And then that changed when I gave the teachers, that all changed when I gave the teachers my facial expressions, and they understood.
I get that.
That's funny.
I do get that.
Yeah, that's good. Well, if you guys have any other questions for Michaela, we would love for you to pop on here and ask them. I know that a lot of you guys can't tune in while we are live because it's the middle of the day, so they're probably at work or school. And so I'm sure that we'll get some comments left after we end the video. And maybe Michaela can hop on and answer some of those, and we'll try to hop on and answer some of them as well. Sherry, Michaela, you are very self-aware. How did you grow that part of yourself?
Well, it didn't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. It all came down to, again, finding the right people, finding the right setting, and getting that sort of affirmation from people once, I'm out of high school, because thank God I'm out of high school, but getting that sort of confirmation from people in my life that I'm a certain way.
Yeah.
And also continuing to work on that and utilize everything that I have to do that. I will say that clinical therapy can be, and I'm all about breaking stigma, but that's one of the things that personally helped me reach my goals and continue to do that. Yeah. So that is one thing for me that is and always has been super helpful.
Yeah. Maybe that's something we could talk about you writing a blog about too, is just like really learning how to understand yourself and how you work. Because once you understand yourself a little bit better, then you can actually help others kind of understand you and communicate with you better as well. So that would make a good topic. All right, let's see what else we got. Has there been any movement in getting NVLD accepted under the IDEA? Getting an IEP was a huge fight.
Not that I know of, and I have some policy knowledge because of being a social worker. Not that I know of. On advocacy days, there's a whole bunch of them. I've sent out things, write to your state senators, like sign this petition that says Congress needs to fund the IDEA, like they promised. They broke that promise. So not that I know of.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
We are working on the proposal for the DSM. Which would at least get it recognized. I don't know, the DSM and IDA, they're related.
If it's in the DSM.
Yeah, so we're working on that. That's what all of our research is going to support, is that DSM proposal. And we're slowly working on it. You can read our consensus updates on the website and in our past email newsletters as well, to just get an idea on where we've been with that. But it's a fight. And that's honestly what a lot of people are working on, because we've said this 100 times and we'll keep saying it, but once it's recognized by those entities, then you can really start to bring more awareness to it, because people will start learning about it when they're in school, and people will start recognizing it for insurance and all of the different things that go along with getting that as like an official diagnosis. So
absolutely.
We wish that we could say there's been a lot more movement, but it is moving. It's just, it's slow.
It's okay to move slowly.
Slow. Yeah. It's better than not going anywhere, which is what it was doing before. So
no, very much so.
Are you comfortable talking
Yeah,
about that
that's
one?
fine. I mean, yes.
So we're going to answer
do.
Robin's question about anxiety.
I do. Yeah,
so,
and I'm okay with talking about that. I do. And I also know that I'm not alone in that. I know a lot of other people that struggle with it. And I also know, but again, that it's pretty normal. Like sometimes you send a text message and you think somebody's mad at you or they're not responding, but it's like really they were just busy.
On the subway or working.
Or just unable to respond at that moment. And for people who know you and know that you have anxiety or any other issue, they'll keep that in mind. And
that's awesome.
Like I said before, then they're worth keeping around.
Yeah, definitely. When you mentioned the tone of written text message, I know that can cause anxiety. The what ifs and what did she mean? How old is your son, Robin? Is he the 6th grader, right? And I think a lot of that has to do a little bit with his age too. I think as he gets older, he'll be more comfortable kind of asking his friends to explain a little more. He's really young right now, so he's just kind of probably starting to get into those social situations that require more understanding than just like playground skills and that kind of stuff. So I definitely think it's such a hard age anyway, that 6th and 7th grade, that I'm sure, and I know I feel like you probably felt more comfortable after high school, right?
Yeah, that's an understatement.
So you
understatement
really kind
of
of
the
figure out
century.
yourself. Yeah. So I think that as he gets a little older, it may be a little easier for him. So Dr. Sheldon Horowitz is saying there's no reason why NVLD can't be included under the SLD category. So if you guys are looking for some help with IEPs, specified learning disability, I think, is that right? Specific learning disability. He's saying to not think in labels, so don't necessarily think about the label itself, but to think in behaviors and characteristics.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, again, we knew I had these issues around motor skills and visual spatial things, but NVLD was codified as a diagnosis, like, much later and after, like, I struggled with all these things.
Yeah.
And both my parents were educators and had never heard of, that acronym.
Yeah.
But we always knew that I had these issues going on, but we didn't know that it was an actual LD.
Yeah. What was I going to ask? Oh, did you have an IEP at your
I did,
school?
but we should have disclosed this early. I also have a hearing loss, and I do wear hearing aids. So yeah, it's when I was diagnosed with NVLD, that kind of overshadowed the hearing loss part because it affected me so much more and it explained so much more than my hearing loss did. But my IEPs for that, I used to use a microphone system in class. Okay. After a while, I felt like I didn't really need it so much anymore, but I did when I was younger. And that was pretty much it. Because I struggled on tests, I got extra time at a separate location, so I have double time, and I still do.
Okay.
But I did have an IEP when I was younger.
That's awesome. Okay, good information. Oh, someone's agreeing with the needs-based for the IEP instead of the label, which is awesome. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I'll give you guys like another minute or so to see if we have any more questions come in. Is there anything that you want to say, Michaela, as far as like parting words or advice to people, even honestly, people graduating college? Because now that you've gone through school, it's kind of like now find a job and move into more of a career-driven environment than a learning-based environment. So do you have any advice for people that are struggling with either the transition from high school to college or college into post-education life? I
would say that no matter what it is, it's a transition, and with transitioning comes adjustment and adjustment issues. But wherever you are in that, utilize your resources whenever you can, whether that's therapy or whatever else it is, as long as it's a healthy coping mechanism that helps you, and make sure to engage in self-care. We say that, and if you had a hard time previously, it's important to remember that you're not that person anymore. You're still you, but those characteristics, you can put them behind you and say, this is who I am now in this moment in time. I'm still Michaela Hurst, but I'm not the person who struggled as much as I did. Like that, I can put behind me. I'm not my 15-year-old self anymore. I'm 25 now.
Good.
So it's important to put stages of your life behind you.
That's good advice. That's really good.
Without, bashing your old self, saying like, I used to be so stupid or I was dumb. I mean, we were all stupid at one point, but we all do stupid things. But it's just important to not be so hard on your old self and realize that there's a difference between growth and I'm trying to think of how to say this. Growth versus I messed up in the past. And then I think the final thing I want to say is I have people tell me like, oh, you changed so much and like you're so different now. Of course I'm different now. I'm going to be different from when I was 5 and 15 because 10 and 20 years have passed. But I like to think of it as growth rather than change. So like, this is the person who I am now. This is the person who I've grown into and who I've always been. And now it's because I had the tools to really get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, feel free to leave comments when you guys are watching this later in the day. Go online, read Michaela's blog post. I think that, did we publish your video of you speaking at the event last year?
Yes, and
I think we did.
You want to check these out, I am a guest blogger for Friends of Quinn, and you should check them out. I've also written blogs for Understood. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Understood.
Yeah.
So you can look up my name on those 2 sites and my writing will come up.
That's awesome. Yeah, so reach out if you guys have any questions. We're so glad y'all tuned in today. We will see you next month in August. We don't know who we have speaking yet, but we always come up with someone good, and we're excited to keep doing these monthly and maybe even more often if we can handle it. So we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.